Conspiracy theories, eh? Wait till you get a load of this. Hello, and welcome to Crack Sisters Conspiracies. We're a podcast that covers conspiracy theories, mysteries, and all over spooky shit. My name is Cassandra.
And I'm Jackie.
And we are Set Sisters.
My gosh, you would think we've never recorded before.
I know. Technology issues have plagued us since the dawn of time, and I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon.
And we haven't recorded since before Christmas.
We have not. The last time we recorded was when you were here. And then it is now the 20th of January.
Shit, I didn't even realize it was that late.
You know what? The year got off to an atrocious start. And
I don't like this year. I would like to go back.
Right. And so the fact that we were even able to find time, I will consider that a success.
There you go. And speaking of which, we will be, our 4 listeners haven't noticed yet, we will be going back, at least for the foreseeable future, to posting every other week instead of posting weekly, just because we are struggle busing this year and we need a little buffer and a little bit of extra time. So,
yes.
Yeah.
So we appreciate your patience, and that just means you have a little bit more excitement as you wait for a new episode to be released.
Exactly.
Okay, so yeah, it's been almost a month then since we recorded. You don't look like Quasimodo anymore. Congrats.
I don't. I forgot about that. I had an eye infection on top of everything else. They said there's you have eye ducts or tear ducts or whatever. She says one of mine got clogged and it caused my eyelid to swell up. And then it was immensely painful just to exist, but to look or to blink hurt really bad. And then Alex was trying to be nice and tried to give me some numbing eye drops. And he accidentally gave me the dilating eye drop. So I went into the eye appointment and they thought I had a brain bleed because one of my pupils was 3 times the normal size. It was a process.
The picture looked cool, and Mom was right. You did look like David Bowie.
But yeah, that was fun. That lasted a week.
Yeah, so I'm glad you look more yourself, although you have a new hair color, which I really like.
Well, thanks. This is not the original hair color. Fun fact, you should not change your hair when you're going through a crisis.
I mean, it looks like you've reddened it. It's not as copper as the previous picture.
Yeah, my goal was to go with a copper, and it turned out to me just orange. I understand that copper is a shade of orange because I went to Sally's and the woman talked to me like I was a fucking retard. Because I said, hey, I need to fix this. Do you have a toner or something I can do to make this less orange? And she goes, well, what was your inspo picture? And I sent it to her, and I was wearing a hat because I was in shame. So she could only see my ponytail. And she's like, well, you look like the picture. I go, I really don't, but I don't have the energy to explain this to you. So I'm like, I'm just going to leave. So I went and I just got a different hair dye and I re-dyed my hair completely by myself at home.
Oh my God.
Yes, it's very red because my hair was very orange. So it's very bright and vibrant, but I'm happier with this than I was the other.
I don't hate it. It is something different. The lighting is
also awful in here right now, to be fair.
Because your face just completely disappears in the wall behind you.
I don't know.
So it exaggerates the color of your hair, but I do
wonder
like
if I turn the light down. That make me that made me white.
You look even less like a real boy now.
Oh, whatever. I fucking give up. So life is just hard right now. What's up with you?
We've been plagued with, we have power right now, which I'm really happy about. That was one of the reasons we were delayed also, because Southern California has been on fire for weeks. And fortunately, even though we had a couple fires break out locally in town, it was nothing catastrophic, but the power company proactively has been shutting off people's power because the winds keep picking back up. We get the Santa Anas, and it was really bad, 90-mile-per-hour winds. It's not as bad now, but it's still 30, 40 miles per hour. So everyone's getting notices hey, you might not have power again. So I've just given up. Grayson wasn't going to school because the schools were shutting down. I had to take her to work with me, which I don't want to do that again because She
I
thinks
don't
I
blame
type
you.
too loud, and she was just the worst little critic as I'm trying to get work done in my office. So
Oh my
whatever.
gosh.
Banned TikTok. And I was like,
Are you sure? Because I checked today and it's still on.
because they brought it back because Trump saved it.
Wasn't he the one that wanted to get rid of it?
Yes. Make
So
it make
everyone
sense.
so everyone cried for nothing because it's
Well, they
still
did shut
working.
it down. They shut it down for 14 hours. And then miraculously, owner and
God.
Trump came to an agreement, and now it's all better. So I just deleted it, and I am in my morning phase. And I'm also using Red Note. So I'm learning. Do you know what Red Note is?
No.
So Red Note is China's version of TikTok, because TikTok is banned in China, and that's where it comes from, by the way. Because
Yes, I did know that.
yeah, so it's a communist country, so they want to control what their people can see. So Red Note is like an approved, essentially TikTok replacement there. Everyone is so nice. So many people have been flocking to it, and it's like all like Chinese nails and this and that. So, and ASMR. So I get my dopamine hit from that. But really, I'm just staying off my phone because it was a wake up call. I really needed to unplug and should not rely so much on doom scrolling to
There you
make
go.
me feel better. But
Okay. I know I did see something like a video. I didn't understand it, but this makes sense now. The guy's like, oh, us not reading the terms and agreements on Red Note, and now I am a part of the Chinese communist military. And I didn't get it, but now I get it.
yeah, so there was like a big push because one of the reasons TikTok was being banned is because it's a national security threat because they're stealing our data. And so a bunch of people were like, I don't care. I will go willingly give China all of my data.
I see.
So again, there's no reason to be on the internet right now because everyone is crashing out, it seems. And so I'm trying to better myself.
Well, there you go. You got away from your one responsibility, which was posting TikToks. So now you don't have to do that anymore.
The bar, I was trying to explain to my husband yesterday, no, the day before. We need to keep the bar so low on the ground for expectations, like across,
yes,
everything, that you're going to trip over it, because if you raise it even a little bit, you will be sorely disappointed by every aspect in life. And that's just, it's been 20 days into this new year and it feels like it's been 30 years.
I agree. It's not a great year. Oh, this has nothing to do with anything, but I saw the movie Baby Girl with Nicole Kidman.
Oh,
have you seen previews for that?
I have heard rumblings about that. It's supposed to be very spicy. Is it uncomfortable?
Yeah. I was so uncomfortable. I went by myself, and I'm glad I did, because had I been with another human, it would have been even worse. But I mean, I guess spoiler alert, not really, but I hated it. Nicole Kidman is like, I don't know, in her 60s, maybe, or late
Very
50s.
possibly, yeah.
Her love interest is in his late 20s.
Okay.
And I'm like, I find this unrealistic just based on, like, she's nice looking, but I'm like, I don't really necessarily think a 20-something-year-old is going after a 60-something-year-old CEO. And it was just so uncomfortable because it's like domination, I guess. And it was just very cringe to me. And they make out a lot, and I fucking hate watching people make out. I think it is the most atrocious thing ever. And I remember thinking, God, I hate this. And it had no fucking plot. It had no followable storyline. I'm like, this is, and it isn't even good. Like the smut, like at least with 50 Shades of Grey, yeah, it's not great, but like it had a good amount of smut. That's what you're there for. They understood. They kind of have a plot. No one really cares. This one, they had no plot. The smut was shit. And I was uncomfortable for an hour and a half. I fucking hated it. So
okay. So what I'm hearing is don't waste my time. Don't watch it. Perfect.
No, at least don't pay for it. I paid for it. Now I regret it. But
oh, yeah, I don't like paying for movies. I will hold out until the bitter end and watch something on Tubi 3 years after it comes out.
I am not like that. But
yeah.
Oh, and then I'm also getting another tattoo session on Wednesday.
Oh, I knew that was coming up. Okay, very fun. Is this moving up on your arm or color, or you don't know? You just
No, there's no color. It's just black and gray. I don't know if she's gonna fill in this and the rest of this, or if she's just gonna jump and do the top side. I don't know. I got it for 8 hours, so don't know what she's planning on doing, but
how fun. That's something to look forward to.
It is, yeah.
Hopefully you don't get tattoo flu in the recovery, but
the hell's that?
Sometimes your body just, because there's so much trauma to it, it just kind of shuts down on you and you get flu-like symptoms for like a day or two.
Oh,
Yeah.
I hope not.
I hope not. But
It wouldn't
anywho.
surprise me though.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you talking about today?
Well, I wanted to mention, like, I know we touched upon it. I did try to do my notes many times, but because not having power and no free time, like, really hindered my ability to do so. So there were forces outside of my control, which limited my ability to do it. But I fortunately had a free day today. Thank you, Martin Luther King Jr. So I
Yes.
was able to dedicate some time today. My topic is actually a landmark that I have never visited, but it is on my list and it's totally doable because it's only like a 5-hour drive away up to San Jose, California. It's a lot closer to you than it is to me. But today we are going to talk about the Winchester Mystery House.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that was in I did know it was in San Jose, actually, now that I say that out loud, because when mom and dad were visiting last year, we were in Napa, and I don't know why it came up, but mom's like, I think that house is around here. We should go to it. I'm like, okay, if you want to drive a couple hours, we can. That's exciting.
Yes. So it's much closer to you. So clearly you have never visited then.
No.
No. Okay.
Not.
Yeah.
I watched the movie and that sucked.
There was a movie about it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not actually, you know what? I'm not surprised considering what it's about. I can see that being a movie.
It was like 2014, maybe 2015. It was a horror movie. It was not good.
Okay. Well, I'll take your word for it. But I was trying to get inspiration for my topic by looking up weird or mysterious places, and that came on the list, and I actually recognized that one, so I figured I would do that. But for those who are unaware, the Winchester Mystery House is this like gigantic house that had been previously lived in by a woman named Sarah Winchester. She was the widow of William Wirt Winchester from the firearms company Winchester Rifles. Mm-hmm. And it's supposed to be absolutely bonkers inside and maybe a little bit haunted as well. So we are going to learn more about Sarah Winchester and her weird ass house.
Cool.
So who was Sarah Winchester? While the house is really the star of the show, it wouldn't be what it is today without Sarah Winchester and her tragic, awful life that fueled the birth of the Winchester Mystery House.
Sure, as always.
So Sarah Winchester, whose maiden name was Pardee, was born on June 4th, 1839 in New Haven, Connecticut. And though her name is Sarah, she was often called Sally, as she was named after her grandma, and everyone just kind of called her that. I would much rather be called Sarah myself, but it does not seem like she had much choice.
That's offensive.
Right?
Why would you name me something if you're not going to call me
Right?
it?
Why not just name me Sally then?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even think it's not even her middle name or anything. So,
yeah,
whatever.
Interesting.
I would be pissed. I would grow up with a grudge because of it. In 1866, when Sarah was about 23 years old, she married William Wirt Winchester. And Wirt is a really weird middle name. It's W-I-R-T. I have never heard it before, and it feels weird to say.
Wart. I thought you were saying wart.
No, with an I, not an O.
It's weird.
But he was a man that she had been neighbors and childhood friends with, which I think is kind of adorable that they got married. William was the son of Oliver Winchester, who was a wealthy shirt manufacturer who would later go on to found the Winchester Repeating Arms Company and become even more wealthy, a ridiculous amount of money. Unfortunately for them, they were starting their life together in a time where there were building material shortages as a result of the Civil War. So they couldn't go on to live in their own home just yet. They had to start their life as newlyweds living with his mom and dad.
Oh, God. Oh, no, don't do it.
And they were there for like a hot minute. They were hopeful to be able to build their own home, though. And after the war, 4 years later, living with mom and dad for 4 years, in 1866, they began the new home construction on Prospect Hill, which is where their house was going to be. During the build, the Winchesters both got really into design and architecture and like the whole process of building their own home. And it morphed into kind of an obsession or a hobby specifically for Sarah as time went on. On June 15th of the same year, Sarah and William had a daughter named Annie Pardee Winchester. And she was named Annie after William's late sister who died in childbirth.
God. And they only called her Maria.
Unfortunately for Sarah and William, Annie suffered from marasmus, which I had to look up. Have you ever heard of that? I've never heard of it. Marasmus is essentially a form of severe malnutrition, and little Annie passed away within a month of being born.
Oh my God.
Naturally, the couple was absolutely devastated by their loss and ended up becoming a bit reclusive, with Sarah staying out of sight for nearly a year after the passing of her child. The Winchester's home on Prospect Hill was finally completed in 1868, so about 2 years after little Annie bit the big one. And actually, she didn't bite anything because she was malnourished.
Oh my gosh.
But this house that they built was massive. It was over 20,000 square feet. It had over 20 rooms and a lot of fancy schmancy design inside, like all marble floors, crazy fireplaces and chandeliers, plasterwork ceilings, so like intricate designs and all this shit. And they were thrilled. So they at least had something good. Sarah was not lucky enough to live peacefully in her new home for too long, though. In June of 1869, Sarah's dad passed away when he was only 60, likely from rheumatoid arthritis, which I didn't know you can die from, and now I'm a little concerned.
Did I?
Because I'm fairly certain Evan has it. So.
I told you, we're both going to be young widows. It's fine.
And you know what? I feel like I might become the new Sarah Winchester just without the same quirks. But
I'll move in the same house with you. It's cool.
We're going to be all Grey Gardens and like just live together.
That's great.
But poor Sarah, she did get a bit of a reprieve from grief for about a decade before she got taken out by a bad luck tsunami, essentially. So between the years of 1880 and 1881, Sarah's mother died, followed by her father-in-law, Oliver, with the biggest whopper being her husband, William, dying of tuberculosis in March of 1881. Get your vaccines, people. It's important. Her oldest sister, Mary, also ended up dying in 1884.
Lovely.
So, the hits keep on coming. The silver lining for Sarah at this time was her inheritance. Her husband made sure that she was taken care of after his passing, and she ended up with a massive amount of Winchester repeating arms stock and essentially lived off of the dividend income. So like she just held on to everything and it just paid for her lifestyle. Yeah. And then she also inherited additional stock from her mother-in-law when she passed. So she was like financially set for life.
Do we know if these were actual accidental deaths, or did she maybe have a hand in it?
No, it seems legitimate that in the 1800s, no one really lived very long.
I forgot about that.
Like, it seemed like she legitimately loved her family and her husband.
Okay,
and I don't think there was a motive behind it. People were not whacked. Around the same time, Sarah herself started suffering from rheumatoid arthritis, just like her dad. Yeah. And the doctor had suggested a change of scenery for her to a warmer, drier climate. So Connecticut, if you got RA, that's not the place to be, and you should probably move away. The next year, when Sarah was 46, she moved from Connecticut out to California, and her remaining 3 alive sisters ended up tagging along with her. So she figured that might, be helpful. In San Jose, California, Sarah ended up acquiring a 45-acre ranch that had a 2-story, 8-room farmhouse on it. Having an interest in architecture from her previous home that she had built, Sarah wanted to remodel the San Jose property and expand upon the existing farmhouse as well. She ended up hiring a few architects to kind of start planning out the job, but she ultimately told them, just kidding, I don't need you. I'm going to do it all myself. Because why not?
Got nothing else to do.
I love an independent woman.
Wait till you see her work. I know where the story goes.
The result of Sarah's personal planning was a seemingly never-ending amalgamation of carved wood features from floor to ceiling with intricate patterns, giant fireplaces set in between weird, massive, mismatched windows, walls covered in all sorts of materials like leather and metal, various glass art pieces and assorted paintings from around the world, and even an indoor garden coupled with massive exterior gardens. One of the most notable features is the amount of stairways in the home. One of them had a total of 44 steps, but it only rose up 10 feet high. So I looked it up because I was curious. I'm like, well, how big is 44 steps supposed to be? And apparently each step in a traditional staircase is like 7 inches.
Yeah.
So if you were to extrapolate that out, a staircase with 44 steps should be like almost 26 feet high. So it was like less than half. And that particular staircase had been built apparently as a result of Sarah having like severe health issues, coupled with the fact that she was a tiny woman. She was like under 5 feet tall. So she could get away with having smaller stairs, apparently.
Sure. Okay. That just reminds me of that nightmare I had with you. One of the many, when I was being held hostage by a man and like abused significantly in the house that I was trying to find my way out of. There were stairways everywhere and walls led to nowhere and hallways led to nowhere. And I'm like, this is literally the Winchester house.
And that is a very accurate representation of what it ended up being. It's crazy how weird it is.
Yeah.
The windows in the house are of particular interest as there is a ridiculous amount of them, thousands of windows, and they all have varying shapes, sizes, colors, designs. There's like no two things that are exactly the same. And most of them are asymmetrical. So you'll have like a triangle shaped window right next to a trapezoid, and one will be like a stained glass Tiffany style artwork, and the other has spiderweb motifs in them. They're really cool to look at from an artistic point of view, and architecturally they're very interesting, but nothing looks like it goes together.
Yeah.
It's like you took a bunch of stuff and put it in a bag and like shook it up and just spilled it on the plans for the house, and that's what she ended up going with. The gardens on the property were also unsurprisingly massive, and it's estimated that there are plants and trees from well over 100 different countries that are planted there. So it's like the amount of time and money and effort that went into the expansion of this house is crazy. Sarah's approach to renovation is a little abnormal. Normally you have your grand plan and then you start implementing. She decided to fuck tradition and do it her own way, which is super slow and arduous, because she would design the expansion room by room. So she would design the space for a bedroom, hire a contractor, come in to build it. And then once that was done, she would start on her next thing. She would take breaks occasionally for like months at a time because she was old and sickly and needed rest. But there was always some project going on. It was just seemingly continuous. It was just really, really slow. It went on for almost 40 years was how long.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Like it just became kind of like an obsessive hobby for her. And it was just something to do. But the house just kept growing and growing and growing. And at its largest point in the build, the house had about 500 rooms in it, which it's insane. And at the end, we'll go through the accounting of, how many of everything was there.
Okay.
Again, unfortunately, I feel like I've used this word for Miss Winchester a lot. In 1906, there was a big-ass earthquake in San Francisco, and the Winchester house took some massive damage because of it. There was an entire wing of the house that had been destroyed, as well as the whole 3rd and 4th story additions. There was a 7-story bell tower that had collapsed, and most of the chimneys in the house also did not survive the earthquake. So it was really sad. Like a big portion of it got ruined. And so Sarah had the rubble and all of the damage removed. But at that point, she pretty much just kind of left the house as it was and just didn't want to dedicate the time or effort into rebuilding, her life's work, essentially. But because of the damage, it exposed a lot of the other oddities in the house, like doors that open to nothing.
Yep.
They go into walls, or they literally go to nothing, or staircases that go straight to the ceiling or that go up into nothing. It could have been that it went up to a story that's no longer there anymore because of the earthquake. There are things like pipes that are protruding from the wall and you don't really know what they are coming from. Very strange to see. And it looks like a lunatic had built it. As she was getting older, her health was worsening, and so she didn't have the time to devote to the house, and really no work had been done after the earthquake, with the exception of an elevator being added to the house in 1916. So Sarah Winchester passed away on September 5th in 1922, and she was 83. And at the time of her death, the house had in total 160 rooms, 2,000 doors, 10,000 windows, 47 staircases, 47 fireplaces, 13 bathrooms, and 6 kitchens.
You would think she would add in some more bathrooms.
Right? I feel like the number of bathrooms is always supposed to be like double the amount of rooms.
Yeah.
Because
she did that a little backwards. I like the 6 kitchens, though.
I would love to have a second kitchen. I would love to have a normal size first kitchen, but I feel like you can never have enough counter space when you're cooking.
Agreed.
Naturally, the existence and story of the Winchester house is odd and interesting, and it opened as a tourist attraction in 1922, about 6 months after Sarah Winchester had died.
That was the year she died. It's very quick.
Yeah, her body was barely cold when people were like, let's capitalize on this. And because of that, legends and lore also started to evolve around the house and the woman herself. One myth surrounding the house, and I think the most well-known, it suggested that Sarah Winchester had visited someone who could talk to the dead, so like a medium.
Sure.
While she was in Boston. And this person told her that she was going to be haunted by ghosts of the people who were killed with Winchester rifles.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Because her family, is associated with, the gun company. And that in order to kind of like repent and make the ghosts happy, she has to build a house to hold all of the ghosts. And because people would continue to be killed by firearms, it's a task she would never be able to complete, and she would never be able to build a house that's big enough.
Okay.
Yes. And the reason the home has a labyrinth-like feel apparently was to keep the spirits confused and unable to easily find her and bring her harm within the house. Again, according to the lore around it.
Okay.
And because of that, that story behind it is definitely a popular ghost hunting tour attraction. And visitors and the tour guides claim to have experienced cold spots, footsteps, cooking smells, odd sounds, whispering, and doors and windows slamming, along with feelings of being watched, suggesting that the ghosts are still there. Although there's been no definitive proof to back up any of the
Sure, of course not.
Another take on Sarah Winchester and the never-ending construction came about from the local papers at the time. Sarah, for the most part, just kind of kept to herself at home, and she was just continuously expanding her house. That's what she did in her free time. And because she was almost never seen in public, but people knew who she was and knew that she was connected to the firearms industry, the newspaper took it upon themselves to kind of put words into her mouth as to why she is the way that she is, and declared in print edition that the officially stated reason that she has to keep expanding the house is because she was scared that she was going to be cursed and forever have bad luck if construction ever stopped on the house. And then this eventually morphed into, no, really, she believes that she's so cursed that she's going to die if she doesn't keep expanding this house. And so it becomes this like obsessive compulsion. In order to keep her alive, she must always be building.
But didn't she stop for a period of time?
She did, but there was always some project happening. And again, this is all just gossip columns, essentially.
Well, but she obviously didn't die, so that kind of disproves that theory right there.
It does, but it just goes to show that even in the 1800s, people were shitty and gossiped about everything.
That makes sense.
In my opinion, it just seems like she was a very sad woman.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Everything in her life and was just clinging to something that made her think of her husband. They shared a love of architecture, and she probably lost a good chunk of her personality and her mind with everything that happened, and just kind of became a crazy spinster. And that was her outlet. Just keep building. And I could very easily see myself being that way, just completely wrapped with grief. Like I said, I don't think expanding my house would be that, because I don't have the money to do that.
You'd have to go up too. You can't really expand out.
You don't have because I live in a duplex, and I don't think my neighbor would like it.
Or your HOA, but you're on the board, so it's fine.
I am, but like maybe I could see myself being someone who collects too many animals, and then that's no good.
That tracks. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, so I totally want to go visit. And
it's only an hour and a half for me. I just looked it up.
Yeah. So we should totally one day make it a long weekend where I come to visit you and then we go. And I looked it up for 2 adults. It's probably $70 to go. So
Okay.
it's
Not
reasonable.
bad. Yeah.
And then the amount of money that they must make on it, hundreds of thousands of people come through it. And I was looking at the website and it's like you can have the traditional tour. And then for an additional fee, you can have 25 to 30 minutes of self-guided exploration of the basement too. And I don't want that either. But
I'll never get out of that house.
No. And that's a legit fear of mine. Like I'm scared that I would get so turned around that I would get lost and I would become one of those ghosts. So
yeah, because normally you just run the walls. That's how you get out of situations. That's how you can get out of a corn maze. But if the walls lead to nowhere, that fails very quickly, and then you're just fucked.
What I do know is that the staircases are not going to help me, so I'm not going up.
That's true.
But yeah, so it seems very interesting, and I just feel really bad for her at the end of it.
I know,
even
so
though, yeah, she lost everything in life except for her money, and all that did was, buy her time.
Yeah. Oh, poor lady. I know. Interesting.
That was interesting. But what are you gonna do your next topic on? Any idea?
Let's see. Yeah, I got some options here. I could do a person who disappeared on a Disney cruise.
Oh, okay.
Or I could cover like guardian angel / the third man syndrome.
Third man syndrome. That sounds interesting.
Okay, I'll do that one then.
Do that one. Okay, cool. But yeah, in the meantime, feel free to reach out to us on our social media platforms, with the exception of TikTok, because that shit is dead.
We've abandoned it.
But you can always find us on Instagram, on Facebook, pretty much anything that's fucking owned by Mark Zuckerberg. Blue Sky, you can find us on Patreon if you want an extra level of participation and you get some additional goodies, both for free and if you subscribe. And you can check out our website that I think we have. What is it? cracksistersconspiracies.com.
I think something happened to it, but it used to be up and running. I'm not sure. But real quick, for anyone who's following along with our book club, this month, so the month of January, we are reading The Silent Patient by Alex something.
I listened to it. I did an audiobook this time, and I listened to it in a day and a half. 3 weeks ago, essentially. So I'm going to have to re-listen to it again.
I'm still reading it. I'm so slow at reading this month, but I'm getting there.
Well, it's like if you listen to an audiobook at 8 times the speed, it goes like that.
Oh, you crackhead.
But I looked insane. Because I was listening to it when I was doing stuff around the house, but there would be points where I was just walking and then I would stop in the middle of the room to listen, and I'm just standing there.
You're getting closer and closer to Sarah Winchester as the days.
You know what? I'm telling you, that is what I'm going to end up morphing into. But in the meantime, keep sending us feedback and topics of interest. But on that note, I'm going to say stay cracked, y'all.
And have a great day.